Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Guns and Guitars, and it's been a minute, hasn't it? It's good to see you guys again. Today I'm going to be flattening some slabs and thicknessing some guitar body blanks, and to do that I'm going to be using the LongMill Mark II 48x30. So I'm going to kind of take you guys along on my journey to show you how I do it, why I do it on a CNC machine, and why I think the LongMill Mark II 48x30 is actually the best CNC for this job. I'm Dan, this is Guns and Guitars. Let's get started. So if you guys watched my original unboxing and build along of the LongMill Mark II, you guys know that one of the main reasons why I got this machine was so that I could flatten large slabs. Now, why is that so important for a guitar builder? Well, as I'm sort of developing my brand and getting ready to launch my own line of custom guitars, I decided that I really want to build my guitars out of local, sustainably harvested lumber, which means I don't get like perfectly dimensional lumber to build guitars out of. So I get stuff more like, this or this, and I just kind of have to make it work. And obviously, big old live edge slabs like this are not going to fit through my 13-inch planer. Yet I do need to somehow get it down to about 1 5/8 inch thickness. I've found that to be about the perfect thickness for a guitar. And so either I have to saw this beautiful piece of wood down the middle, plane it, and then glue it back together, or I can have a really large, really strong, powerful CNC machine, level it all down, and I can keep it one piece. And that's where the LongMill Mark II really shines. It is hands down the biggest and strongest CNC machine you can get for under $2,000. I believe last time I checked, you can still get one of these machines for about $1,800, and this is the largest one that you can get. You can get smaller sizes if you don't need to level out such large slabs. Now, I obviously wanted the biggest machine I could get because I figured then I would never outgrow it, right? So I opted to just go straight for the 48x30, but you can actually get the 15x30 or 30x30, and then you can actually upgrade it down the road. It's one of the things that I really love about Sienci Labs is that their stuff is scalable. You don't have to spend every dime that you have just to get into the game. You can buy in cheap and make upgrades as you go. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later because there is an upgrade that I will want to make to this machine down the road. But for now, I'm perfectly content. You guys are going to hear a lot of things that I really love about Sienci Labs. But the first thing is that when I want to flatten a slab or surface my wasteboard or something like that, I don't need any special CNC software and I don't have to write any programs. I can just open up Sienci Labs' native G-Sender app. This is their G-code sending app. And there is a built-in surfacing tool in there where you just enter in your dimensions, how big your router bit is, how deep you want to go, all that kind of stuff. And it will generate the code for you right there in the G-code sending app, and then you just run it straight from there. It's super easy. And as you can see, it works on a Mac. So in a world where nearly all CNC software is PC-based, I really appreciate that Sienci Labs values having an open source software platform. So it works on Mac, works on PC, it works on Raspberry Pi. So, if you don't want to have a dedicated computer for sending your G-code, you could set up something like that. It's really freaking cool, honestly. And so that's what I use when I'm flattening my slabs. I don't try to open up any other, easel or Fusion 360 or anything like that. I could just generate it straight from the app. It's very helpful. So of course, once I've inputted all my dimensions, how deep I want to go and all that stuff, then I can just hit send and start the machine and walk away. But one thing you'll notice watching this B-roll is that just like most things in life that are really big and powerful, it's also just not very fast, okay? Now, obviously I could speed it up if I could go deeper or if I could use a wider router bit, and that's kind of where I am limited at this point because I opted to just use the trim router attachment for now, again, with Sienci Labs allowing me to get in cheap and then make upgrades as I go. I'm just using this Avid router Makita clone basically for now. And with the trim routers, with whether it's the Makita or the Avid, you're limited to a 1/4 inch collet size, which means a 1/4 inch shank for your router bits. And so that means that the largest surfacing bit that I can use is just 1 inch. So it takes a lot of passes to surface one of these things down. If you're trying to go like a 1/4 inch or whatever, it's going to take some time. And so that's something that I want to upgrade down the road. It's not a lack of power. I mean, for the vast majority of everything that I do with the CNC machine, I'm really only running that router on the first or second power settings out of like 8. And so it's not a lack of power. It's just a lack of size of the router bit, really. And so if I were to get, let's say I got an 800 watt spindle, same wattage as the trim router, then I could use 1/2-inch shake router bits and, something like this, which is a 2-inch surfacing bit. And this is what I use with my router and router sled when I'm flattening these things by hand. So if I did make that upgrade, then I could use that bit and I could, cover twice as much ground as a single pass, as well as go deeper on a single pass because I wouldn't be afraid of breaking that slim little 1/4-inch shank. But if speed is an issue, you guys might be thinking, you've seen me flattening slabs with my router sled before and then I can get it done really fast. And that is true. And here's why I don't want to do that anymore. One, when I'm done, I'm covered in like hamster cage style wood chips and I require a shower. 2, my back is really sore. And 3, it requires me to be present the entire time that I'm doing it. And that's actually the biggest blessing of CNC technology, is that it does not require my entire focus and attention like operating a high-powered router does. And so I want to take a minute to talk about how you can, leave this thing to do its job while still being perfectly safe. And so I'll actually be the first to say, along with Sienci Labs and probably every CNC manufacturer, that you should never leave your machine running unattended. But that being said, I don't always stay in my shed watching my CNC while it's running 100% of the time. In fact, usually once I set it up to run, I do leave. And so I'm just gonna tell you what I do, but you guys are gonna have to make the decision for yourself what you feel like is safe. So for me, the reason why I feel safe leaving the room is, well, one, the emergency stop buttons on these things, like any desktop CNC machine, the cable is really short. And so if something starts going haywire, it actually requires me to run towards the CNC machine to shut it off. Now, if chunks of wood and pieces of router bit are flying everywhere, I think the last place that I want to be running is toward that scene, right? And so one of these days I do want to extend the wires on that button. And it's not a fault of Sienci Labs. This is every desktop CNC machine that I've seen. They have the button so close to the machine. I want to wire it to the outside of my shed so that in the case that things go haywire, even if I'm in the shed, I can leave the shed for my own safety and then run around the back and hit the emergency stop or whatever, And that just makes good safety sense to me. But 2, I also have a automatic fire extinguisher that hovers right above where I do all my CNC work. And that includes the laser carving, which I have set fires doing CNC laser carving and engraving. And so I think that that's absolutely valuable. I've never actually tested it, so I don't know how well it works. And so I don't rely on it 100% of the time. Actually, what I do rely on is I have straight above me a Wi-Fi camera that I can monitor on my phone what's going on in the shed. Okay, so that way I can still use my ears and eyes to keep an eye on my machine without being physically present, and physically present for danger if something were to arise, if it were to catch on fire or break apart or something. And so I love being able to monitor it from a safe distance. And of course, outside, I also have access to my hose spigot and my home fire extinguisher. If something were to happen, I can get to those tools much quicker than if I were in here in the shed. So personally, I feel like it's much safer for me to not be in this room while the CNC is running. If you guys agree or disagree, I'm really interested to hear your guys' logic, so feel free to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I said regarding safety. But going back to the original reasons why I want to use a CNC for flattening slabs, I'm not stressed out or anxious because I'm operating a high-powered rotational tool that requires 100% of my focus. And then in addition to that, I can actually get some other stuff done. And so even though it's quite a bit slower than if I were to use a router sled, the fact that I don't have to be here and I can work on other stuff means I'm just not in a hurry. Okay, if I don't have to be here, why am I in a hurry? And when I say it takes a long time, I mean it takes like 45 minutes to an hour for a large slab that I would typically be able to do myself in like 15 or 20 minutes. But if I'm not here doing it, who cares how long it takes? It could take 4 hours. I don't care. I don't have to do it. Now, one thing you could run into when flattening live edge slabs like this is you might get a warped slab. And I don't think I quite noticed that this one was as warped as it was, or I probably wouldn't have bought it. But this slab is 1 3/4 inches thick, and I want it to be between 1.5 inches and 1 5/8 inches. And it's warped by, I would say, probably close to 1/2 inch. And so I don't have a 1/2 inch of material leeway. And so I'm going to show you kind of how I handle this. Basically, I'm going to turn this into 2 guitar blanks. And so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut it right along this line here. And then it won't be so much that I have to remove. All right, so that worked wonderfully. So this piece pretty much hardly teeters at all. That's gonna be really easy to flatten. This one might still be a challenge. It's still got quite a bit of wobble in it, but I'll show you what I'm gonna do with that. This is still gonna be usable for sure. So here's my solution for this, because obviously if I try to run the program on this, it's gonna teeter, and what I'm gonna be left with is obviously not gonna be flat. And so I'm just taking a little bit of scrap wood. This is 1/8 inch plywood, and I'm just gonna slide it under one corner until there's some friction and leave it there. And then I'm gonna slide it in the other corner. Same thing, just once it gets a little bit of friction, and there we go. That completely stabilizes it. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and glue it down. I use hot glue, I don't use clamps. That way I don't have to worry about the router hitting my clamps. So just glue it down. Make sure you glue down your scrap pieces as well as your wood, and we're ready to go. All right, so this side is nice and perfectly flat. So then what you would do, and I'm not gonna waste your time showing you on camera, is you just flip it over and do the exact same thing. If you still have some high spots, shim them up, glue them down, and then just do a quick pass. Now, if you guys are interested in more information about the LongMill Mark II CNC machine, or if you want to see, the different sizes that they have that might be a little bit cheaper than this one, I've got links down there in the description. This is not a sponsored video. In fact, they didn't even ask me to make this video. I'm doing it just because I love this machine and it makes my life so easy, and I thought you guys might benefit from it. I really appreciate how inexpensive this machine is for what it is capable of doing. Now, the other reason why I'm making this video is because obviously I am flattening out a lot of slabs, which means I'm getting ready to make some more guitars. And I've got a couple different new prototypes that I want to try out, as well as I want to use this big slab to make a one-piece neck-through bass. Again, another reason why I wanted this machine in the size that I got it is so that I could do neck-through instruments. And so if you guys are excited to see that, make sure you guys are subscribed. And I've also got a full review video coming on the Sienci Labs LongMill Mark II if you're interested in that as well. I'm Dan, this is Guns and Guitars, and I'll see you in that next video.